I'm Brian Carpenter, host of Fresh Air at 5, a part of the Education Podcast Network, just like the show you're listening to now. Shows on the network are individually owned and opinions expressed may not reflect others. Find other interesting education podcasts at edupodcastnetwork.com.
It's not another thing. It's like you need this to organize your life so that you can focus on the things you want to focus on. And I mean, it makes me so sad, but it's also the truth to admit, like, you are in that spot where you're like, do I quit? How many teachers have said, okay, what can I do with my degree? I mean, I'm in these Facebook groups with teachers, and that's the most common question. What can you do with a degree but not teach? And I mean, it hurts my heart because I have kids in elementary school, and it hurts my heart because I've said it to myself before. And you're just like, I don't want to quit teaching, but what can I do to help myself feel better? Because we're in that place.
Welcome to the Burned In Teacher Podcast. I'm Amber Harper, and the educators on this podcast are brave enough to share their stories of burnout with the world. On BIT, we get real, we get honest, and we take action. Action against the burnout with stories from burned out teachers, advice from experts, and actionable steps you can take today to beat the burnout and become a happier, more fulfilled human being. Let's get started. Hey there, Burned In Teachers. Welcome to episode 107 of the Burned In Teacher Podcast. This is one part burnout and all other parts action, inspiration, and support for teachers dealing with burnout. I'm your host, Amber Harper. I'm so excited that you're here because I am here to empower you and any other burned out teacher out there to believe that you deserve and can achieve a happier and more fulfilled career in life with my 8-step burned in process. And great news, the doors are wide open to the spring 2021 cohort of the Burned In Teacher Mastermind. I am so excited about this. We closed up the winter one. We've got people in the Burned In Teacher Tribe Facebook community ready to welcome new masterminders today, right now. We had an awesome workshop on Thursday evening where we talked about boundaries, but then how boundaries open more possibilities, and that if you want help, if you want to be guided through overcoming your burnout, and you want to look at your burnout as a true opportunity to grow and to make changes that you've never maybe considered making before, or changes that you've wanted to make but you just didn't have the support necessary to help to encourage you and empower you to make, this is your opportunity. So go to burnedinteacher.com/mastermind so you can learn more. I want you to send me an email if you have a question at support@burnedinteacher.com. I am really looking forward to having a lot of conversations now through Wednesday evening about this opportunity that you have. And trust me, if you're saying, Amber, it's spring, like I ain't nobody got time for this, let me tell you something. And as you just heard, Hollie, my Burned In Teacher Triber, who was more than willing to come on the podcast and share her story and her transformation and her encouragement for you to put that time excuse aside. There's never a good time for a big change or even a small change for that matter. There's never a good time. And let's face it, we can always use that we're too busy as an excuse to stay where we are. Speaking of Hollie, let me introduce her. Hollie Truckowski is a Title I reading specialist here in Indiana, where I am from. She's wrapping up her 15th year of teaching, and to practice self-care, she enjoys exercising, reading, scrapbooking. We're actually in our own little Facebook Messenger group with other Burned In Teacher Tribers who have also expressed their love of exercise. But she's also a fan of practicing the hard, scary self-care, which you're going to hear her talk about in this interview. So I want you to let this interview wash over you, energize you, excite you, and help you to think about the possibilities that are there for you when you begin to set these boundaries, not only between the people, places, and things that are standing between you and what you truly love about this one life that you have, but also setting some boundaries between you and your own thoughts and your own beliefs, and how sometimes those can be the hardest boundaries to set. So after you listen to this interview, I encourage you to send me an email at support@burnedinteacher.com if you have any questions about the mastermind. It's going to kick off May 2nd, and the doors are closing on Wednesday, April 28th. So don't wait. And of course, go to burnedinteacher.com/mastermind to learn all the details. I am so excited about this. And without further ado, let's jump into my interview with Hollie. Hollie, thank you so much for joining us on the Burned In Teacher podcast today.
Hi, thank you for having me.
Of course, of course. So tell us a little bit about you, where you are in the world, what you teach, and just let us into your teacher life a little bit.
Okay, so I've taught everything from preschool, actually. My student taught in a Montessori school, so that's kind of a different perspective in my background. And then I've done kindergarten through 4th grade at the elementary level for over the past 15 years. So during that time, I've served on a lot of different committees. I've attended almost all professional development that's been offered by my district. And then in the last 5 or so years, I've actually began presenting professional development until pandemic life happened. So that's been a little different. I've been at the same elementary school now for 10 years, and I toggled between 2nd and 3rd grade a lot. Would stay in 2nd for a while. We used to loop, and so I would loop up to 3rd and then back down to 2nd, and then that changed when the Common Core standards came out. So I was kind of stuck in 2nd grade for about 10 years. And then I asked my administrator to move me to 3rd grade to see if that was the change that I kind of needed. And along with the burnout story, that's kind of where it started, as I just felt kind of stuck. And I wanted to try something new. So I moved up to 3rd grade for a year. And that was last year when the pandemic happened. We all became virtual teachers, and not that that was stressful enough, but adding teaching a new grade and doing it virtually, having my own 2 children at home, so trying to teach them as well. And at our school, the reading specialist, I'm at a Title I school in Northern Indiana, and she was retiring. So I thought maybe that was the direction I want to go. So I decided I would apply to be the new Title I reading specialist at the building that I'm in. So currently, this has been my first year doing that position, and I absolutely love it. It's very different from being a full-time classroom teacher. The amount of work is probably about the same, if not different, just a lot of data collection and RTI process, and I still meet with groups. So I still get to experience teaching. I teach reading through 2 different programs, Hegarty and Foundations, to 1st through 5th graders. So it's a whole new experience where I'm not teaching all subjects, but I'm teaching all grades, 1 subject. So that's kind of where I am right now.
I love me some foundations.
I'm learning all about the science of reading. So my new professional development has been learning all about the science of reading and how important that is. So I'm still learning, which is nice and fun, just different.
Yeah, it is very different. I just loved it though. I learned so much through that program about why our language is the way that it is and things are spelled the way that they're spelled. So it's just really an interesting program. So I have to ask you, when you were going through burnout a couple of years ago, after you said you used the word stuck, you said I was stuck in 2nd grade for 10 years. Did you experience, I mean, what happened in your journey there close to the end of your time in 2nd grade? How did you know you were experiencing burnout there? And what caused you to decide that maybe the change you needed was a grade level change?
So, and I hate to use the word stuck because I did love 2nd and 3rd grade. I love them both. It's a really fun age. So I don't want to say I was stuck there. I think I was feeling stuck towards the end. Like I have always taught 2nd grade, and, every year nobody wants to change. So when you get your sheet asking, what grade level do you want to be in next year? Or when your principal asks you what you want to do, it's so easy to be like, I love where I'm at. I want to keep doing what I'm doing. I experienced a lot of partnership change. So I would have a teaching partner. We're a very small school. So there's only two of us in each grade level during that time. And you would have a teaching partner, and then they might move to a different school, and then you get a new teaching partner, and then they're only there for 1 or 2 years, and then they switch to a different grade level or they move out. And so I was constantly getting new teaching partners. So then you start to question yourself, like, is it me? Like, why are all these people leaving? And I just teach the same curriculum. So we had the same, reading adoption. So it was the same stories every week, and the same math curriculum. So it was the same math lessons every unit. And you just kind of get to the point where you're like, okay, I can only change things so much or make it more exciting in different ways, to the point where you're just like, okay, maybe I need to do something different. Mm-hmm. I also have 2 young daughters who are currently in kindergarten and 3rd grade, but they go to my same school. So they're also in my building. And I didn't ever want to experience teaching their peers with them. Like, I don't think I would mind having my own children in my classroom, but I never wanted to be a question with parents or anything about, it just can get kind of sticky when you have students in your class and then you're also friends with them, or your children are friends with them. So I wanted to experience something different there too, where I wasn't in the same grade as my own children.
So would you say in that case, you were kind of burned and bored, like you were just kind of going through the motions, needing a change, and you had an opportunity and you took it?
Yes. And I didn't even know that till I took the quiz, and burned and bored, and then also burned and unbalanced, because for other areas of, I'm sure we'll talk about later, mm-hmm. But just felt like I was doing the same thing, just going through the motions.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So let's fast forward then to what brought you to the Burn In Teacher Mastermind, because there's a little bit of a story there as well. Obviously, the pandemic, played a part in this, but like you mentioned, you had some of those burned and unbalanced qualities. And that I know we've talked about in the mastermind, we've discussed those things, but so tell us a little bit about, maybe even the pandemic aside, all of the things that you were involved in that were causing you to feel extremely unbalanced.
So because my children come to my school, I'm very involved in my PTO for the school. And so over the last couple of years, I've taken on some leadership roles with PTO and with teacher leadership. We've been doing Girls on the Run for a few years, so I'm a coach with that. Both my children play softball, so I'm a coach outside of school, coaching softball. And I just kind of was getting the feeling of overwhelm, where I was just involved in so many things, even in the building and outside of the building, where I was feeling burned out because I was doing school nonstop. And if I wasn't doing school, I was doing something for school outside of school. So I got to a point where it was at the beginning of this school year. We had a staff meeting in the fall, and one of the teachers had mentioned your book. So she talked about, there's this book called Hacking Teacher Burnout. She had read it and she thought it was a good idea for the staff based on a variety of reasons, but also because of what we had been going through the year before. And it was kind of a busy time. So we decided to table the idea just because it was beginning of the school year. We were actually face-to-face starting in September. So there was a lot going on. And then what I decided to do on my own was I saw your book, and then I just Google searched you. And I looked up your name, and I found your Twitter and your Facebook and your Instagram, and just started following all of those things. And then I saw the podcast. And so I started listening to that in early November. And I've listened to, I think, every week since then. And I've even shared it with other staff members before we started our book study, just to you feel like you're speaking right to us, like you're telling us the things that we need to hear. So just listening to the podcast, I felt better about what was going on and how to try to help myself. And then I was listening to one of the podcasts, and it was the series on clarity. And I listened to all 3 of those. And then you had spoken about the mastermind program. And that's when I decided, I think that might be my next step is I changed positions, and I like where I'm at. I like what I'm doing now. But I think that would just help me organize my time in my life a little bit better to prioritize, you know, outside of school items, inside of school items, and how to make it all work.
And thank you so much for talking about the podcast and the book and everything. I just that means a lot to me. So how was your experience in the mastermind? Are you comfortable with sharing, some of your transformation, some of the realizations that you had and some of the steps that you've taken in your current career?
So I've been very lucky that we decided to do your book as a book study, and it ended up lining up perfectly with the mastermind. So when we were on hack number 1, the staff was on hack number 1, and then we moved to hack number 2, and the staff was on hack number 2. So I was able to take kind of what we were learning and pair it up with what we were doing with the book study. So it kind of did a double whammy for me, because I was able to spend a little more time on each chapter since I was doing work for both. Mm-hmm. But I would say the mastermind has helped. I mean, just at the very beginning, when you identify your burnout type, you learn about yourself, like what is it that I'm struggling with? And doing that book study with our staff, I was able to relate with other people. So I was able to talk to other people, and then having access to the mastermind on Facebook, talking to other people who are experiencing the same burnout type as you, just so you felt less alone. Trying to change yourself and make these decisions can be hard when you're all alone. I mean, like you're a teacher, so your husband doesn't understand unless he's a teacher. Or related to the school, and your friends who are your friends but not your teacher friends don't understand. So it was nice to have a support system. So just going back to identifying what is it that's what's wrong, and then like figuring out your stage and exactly where you line up in your burnout type. And I really enjoyed taking those personality tests, because I never would have done that if it wasn't for this course. Learning more about myself and why I act the way I do, or how I react to certain situations. And then I actually took a step that was very uncomfortable, but I reached out to some of my colleagues, and I knew what my friends were going to say about me, because we're friends, so we talk all the time. But asking some colleagues who I get along with really well, I even asked my own children, their teachers, to give me a perspective, as a parent and as a educator, and then some people that I don't speak with all the time. So just like trying to figure out how I'm perceived by others in order to open up and acknowledge, what others see in me, and then begin to work on those things. Because if you know anything about change, that's probably the hardest part, is hearing the reality. So that really opened up my eyes to a few things that I wanted to change, and then help me change them. So going through the course, I would also say like learning how to create your schedule. So I mentioned all the different things I was involved in, and how am I prioritizing my time? So I am an early riser, and I'm up before 4 a.m. most mornings to exercise, but also that's when I decided I can get my best schoolwork done. So instead of staying after school, like some people do, or working at home in the evening, I have 2 young children, I have a husband, I didn't want to spend my evenings always thinking about school. So I was learning how to budget my time and scheduling my schoolwork so that it worked best for my life. So my evenings can be spent with my family and on doing what I want to do. Same with my weekends, telling myself that I can do things. So just going through the course kind of taught you it's okay to say no to things, and it's okay to say yes to what you want to say yes to. And if I take a Saturday off, the world did not end. I haven't worked a Saturday since we've been doing the course. And so that's been a huge realization for me.
I can barely talk. I'm smiling ear to ear. It's so cool to hear that transformation just from you here in this space. So I'm so excited for you. and how lucky you are that your staff had decided to do, or your fellow colleagues had decided to do this book study in addition to you going through the mastermind. And just to make sure that we're clear, the mastermind goes quite a bit deeper into overarching themes than the book does. So you had the added advantage of offering that perspective probably to your colleagues as well. So I have to ask you this, because this has come up even in this conversation. The this idea that it's just a busy time. And I hear this from teachers a lot. I said it as a teacher, and it's a reality. It seems like no matter what time of year we are in, or what season of the year, the like literal calendar season we are in, that it's super busy. So I know that there are teachers listening that they want to join the mastermind, or they want to explore the idea, but they're telling themselves, I'm too busy. What would you say to a teacher who is feeling or saying those things to themselves?
So, like you said, every time is busy. Like fall, beginning of the school year is busy. Winter, you're looking forward to your break, so that's busy. Spring is busy. Summer, you want to relax and spend your time on yourself. So, I mean, I guess that's the biggest thing is, what do you want to change? Or if you're realizing that you want to change, you have to make time for that change. It's no different. Like I said, I like to wake up early and exercise. So if I want to exercise, I need to change my schedule to make that happen. We all got into teaching for a reason, and hopefully it's because we love children, or we love learning, and we love teaching. And so in order to keep that and not lose that, you kind of have to make time for yourself. So going through this mastermind, I mean, we learned the strategies on how to make the time for this change. And if you want to, in order to grow and change, you kind of have to do the hard work. I mean, that's my biggest takeaway is I did the book study with staff members, and I tried to reach out to colleagues to do this mastermind with me. And that was their response, is like, I'm too busy to read, or I'm too busy to do the mastermind. But for me, it was most important because that's where I was in my life, and I needed that change, and I knew I needed it. And so in order to make the change, I had to do the hard work. And I think that's what's important too, is like you said, the mastermind dove deeper, and just doing the book study and answering the questions from each chapter isn't going to get you where you need to be. You have to actually dive deep and hand write your schedule out, and really ask yourself some of the things that you ask us in there, like, what are your goals? What do you want to do? Where do you see yourself in 1 year, 3 years, 5 years? And I mean, I really think that's some higher level deep thinking that not everybody wants to do, especially if they're kind of in the rut, or not wanting to admit their change needed. But if you want to be responsible for yourself and your time in your life, and you want to go through that burnout, then you need to make those changes so that you can feel successful in your life or job, or just to have happiness again.
I love everything that you said there, because it's so, so true. And conversations that I've been having with teachers lately, whether it's over DMs and Instagram or Facebook message or email, is that I have teachers saying, Amber, am I crazy for feeling like I love teaching, but I hate it at the same time? And that I have actually enjoyed teaching from home, and now we're going to go back into the classroom within the next couple of weeks, or, next fall. And I can't imagine things going back to quote unquote normal. It's it's been interesting to me for teachers to feel like they're crazy when they're really not. A lot of teachers are having all of these emotions, and they love teaching, but they just don't know what the change needs to be in order for them to continue doing this incredibly hard work, especially when it seems like there's always a new challenge. There's always something that seems to be another thing that is just added on to the stress and the pressure. And I've told teachers before too that, this isn't another thing. This is the thing to help you to process all of that. You're shaking your head. Yes.
Yeah.
You would agree with that?
I mean, that's exactly what I was thinking as you were saying it. It's like, it's not another thing. It's like, you need this to organize your life so that you can focus on the things you want to focus on. And I mean, it makes me so sad, but it's also the truth to admit, like, you are in that spot where you're like, do I quit? Do I like, I mean, how many teachers have said, okay, what can I do with my degree? I mean, I'm in these Facebook groups with teachers, and that's the most common question. What can you do with a degree but not teach? And I mean, it hurts my heart because I have kids in elementary school, and it hurts my heart because I've said it to myself before. And you're just like, I don't want to quit teaching, but what can I do to help myself feel better? Because we all were in that place. I mean, I can't think of anybody who didn't feel the overwhelm and the burnout and the stress of working from home or being virtual and having to live that life for 1 month or 3 months or 6 months, or some people have been doing it for a year now. And it makes me sad to think they just can't help themselves, or they don't know how to. So I'm hoping this, by me speaking to you and reaching out a little bit out of my comfort zone, will help other people say, listen, this is me, and this is what I need to do to get better, or to improve, or to feel successful again.
And what I love about what you just said too is that this is a way to help you process, that the mastermind is not meant to help everybody to reach the same goal, that you get to determine what it is that you want. And I don't know about you, but I think that our community is pretty amazing.
Yes. So like all the people, I've reached out to a few people on the Messenger. We even created a teacher bod group for Beachbody on Demand, the people who like to do the workouts together, and we still communicate right now. But just having that relationship, it's been even deeper than some of my colleagues here who did the book study with me, just because we dove so much deeper, and we had looked at things so much, and it just brings the clarity to your mind of what you want. And like you said, my goals are different from somebody else's goals, but I feel a sense of relief because I feel like I've reached those goals that I was striving for. And obviously now I can set more or different ones.
I love that you brought up the fact that you almost felt like you could communicate deeper with the Burn-In Teacher Tribe Mastermind community, because I have noticed, and this program's been going on for a couple of years in different forms. I think I have found the best form to deliver Burn-In Teacher University and to walk through this with you guys. This has been so much fun. And that's why I'm so excited about this upcoming cohort. But what I had noticed in the past, when I just offered Burn-In Teacher University by itself, is that there was almost like this isolation of teachers who finished it. They would tell me, I feel so alone and I feel guilty. I feel bad for feeling so good because nobody else understands me, or I'll say something and I'll be met with rolling eyes or blank stares. And that tore my heart to shreds, because that is certainly not how I want my Burn-In teachers to feel. I want them to feel like they're really, their beliefs have changed so much, and the way they're using their time and their habits and their actions are changing. I certainly don't want them to feel guilty because they feel so good.
Well, and I will be honest, like that is exactly how I felt not in the book study. Not so much with everybody, but it was just when things would come up and we would talk about a chapter, and I would have like strong feelings about something, but I was by myself with those feelings, because you could just tell they either didn't read the chapter fully, or they didn't do the work that you asked to do in that chapter. And obviously I dug deeper because I did the mastermind. So I did it. I went further. I took it steps further. And I did feel very alone. Like, why aren't you guys seeing the things that I'm seeing? Or just didn't have the same energy that I did about the topics.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. So what advice would you give to a teacher who is feeling alone, who is feeling like they love teaching, but they hate the current situation, or they know they need a change, but they don't quite know what that change is? What piece of advice would you give to them, Hollie?
So I would say that, I mean, what I was trying to accomplish by joining the mastermind was I wanted to find and develop that clarity just about myself in my school and where I sit there, and then becoming balanced in my own personal and professional life. And just, I felt like everything was out of control. So I was trying to find the control. And if people are feeling that way, where they're just feeling out of whack, they're feeling like they're not knowing what's going on, or just feeling like they're struggling with that burnout. I took the words from you that you are responsible for yourself, not others. And so if you want to accept that responsibility for your time and your life, and you want to grow through that burnout, then this is what I would recommend, is to go through the process of the Burned In Teacher Mastermind and just make the changes that are necessary in order to build your future and what you want from your life, personal and professional.
Oh my gosh, I'm so glad you added that on there. That I can't think of a better way to to end our time together. Hollie, is there anything that I've left out that you'd like to share today?
I don't think so. I think that's everything. And just thank you for creating and being here. Like I said, it's the time hasn't ended. I'm still connected to my mastermind group, and still connected to the podcast Facebook community. And I still feel connected. I don't feel like I was just kind of left alone. I still have resources and people to help me stay in my unburned outness.
You're burned in-ness.
My burned in, yes.
I love that. And, just to reiterate, just because you reach burned in status, that stage 5, doesn't mean that you can't, slide back into a previous stage. So that's why this community is so, so important. And I'm so glad that we have connected, Hollie. Can you tell people how they can connect with you if they have any questions about your experience, maybe on social media?
Sure. So I use Twitter for educational purposes only. So that'd probably be the best way to get a hold of me. On Twitter, I'm at capital H Truckowski, which is really fun to spell, capital TRUCK, Truck, OWSKI.
And we'll have that in the show notes as well. Hollie, thank you so much for sharing your journey and your story, and for hopefully giving some hope to people who are feeling like they don't know what their next step is here at the end of the 2020-21 school year.
Of course. Thank you.
All right, everybody. Thank you so much for joining us today. We hope to see you in the mastermind with us starting May 2nd. And until next time, take a deep breath, because you just took another step to becoming a burned in teacher. Burn on. If you enjoyed today's podcast episode, you can head over to burnedinteacher.com, where you can access the entire vault of Burned In Teacher podcast episodes and more information about ways I want to help you go from burned out teacher to burned in human. If you enjoyed today's episode, I would be so grateful if you would head over to iTunes and leave a review and a rating about the Burned In Teacher podcast. Until next time, take a deep breath, because you just took another step to becoming a burned in teacher. Burn on.